We are done from the camp on down. We cannot touch the ground this year because we don't have a permit. Keep everything on that side of the line. I'll keep mine on this side.
We're definitely up against it with these licensing issues.
That's why I'm here to see you today.
Tony Beets has finally confirmed the devastating news that sent shockwaves through the gold rush world.
Right now in Yukon, there's a lot of people looking for ground. At least we're fortunate that we have plenty of it. We still don't have a water license in the Indian River. As long as we get it in the next 3-4 weeks, that's good. I may have to get one more, huh?
After disappearing from screens, sparking rumors, and causing panic among fans, the legendary Viking broke his silence. His confession exposed years of hidden chaos, a $9 million licensing disaster, equipment breakdowns that drained fortunes, and personal battles no camera ever caught. What did Tony finally reveal? And why did it take this long to come out? Join us as we reveal the truth about Tony Beets. $31,000 fire regulatory war. Before anyone could really grasp Tony's shocking admission, you've got to go back to one moment in 2014, the spark that lit everything that came after. What was meant to be a wild little celebration turned into something that would haunt him for years. It happened at Indian River. The crew decided to pull what they called a Viking baptism. One of the guys grabbed a fuel can, splashed gasoline across the surface of the dredge pond, then struck a match. The flames shot up maybe 20 feet into the air. Everyone cheered, laughing, filming it all like it was the best thing they'd ever done. It looked harmless at the time. Nobody thought twice about it. Then, 3 years later, the past came knocking. Tony got a summons. He wasn't walking into the Yukon Territorial Court to watch. He was walking in as the man on trial. The judge didn't sugarcoat it. Violation of the Yukon Waters Act for introducing petroleum into a managed water area. It wasn't treated like a silly prank. It was pollution, plain and simple. The fine hit him hard. 31,000 Canadian dollars split between his company, Tamarack Incorporated, and himself. For a miner who pulled in millions each year, the number wasn't crippling. But the money wasn't what hurt the most. From that day on, Tony Beets carried a criminal environmental conviction. The so-called King of the Klondike now had a permanent stain on his record. That label changed everything. Inspectors began swarming every gold rush site he touched. Regulators showed up with clipboards and cameras, checking every diesel tank, every sluice box, every excavator. What used to be routine checks turned into full-blown investigations. The fire fine had given officials exactly what they needed: a reason to come after him again and again. Tony later called it a hard lesson. Maybe so, but lessons that expensive don't fade. They scar you. The 31,000 hurt. But what came next made that look like pocket change. He needed his water license renewed by 2019. Standard paperwork for Indian River and Eureka Creek. Without that license, every bit of mining had to stop. No exceptions, no temporary fix, nothing. So he filed his renewal, did everything by the book, and waited. Normally, the process took a few months. His application sat untouched for 2 whole years. During that time, millions of dollars worth of machinery just sat there. Huge cat dozers turned into rusting ornaments. Komatsu excavators gathered dust. Even the old 75-year-old dredge Tony had spent years restoring stood still, silent and useless. Payroll still had to be met. Insurance bills didn't stop. Maintenance costs kept coming. And up there, you only get about 4 months of decent mining weather, which meant 2 seasons were gone before he could even get an answer. Eventually, when the decision finally came in the mail, It was just one word: denied. No to-be-met conditions, no chance to fix anything, just denied. That meant moving massive machines out of the site, a job that takes weeks of planning and transport. His entire operation shrank almost overnight. The Discovery Channel later aired it as $9 million mistake. The title said it all. $9 million gone. Not because of bad mining ground or broken machinery, but because some papers sat too long on someone's desk. Tony always ran on risk and instinct. That's how he built his empire. Quick decisions, big moves. But this was something he couldn't fight. It was death by paperwork. No court appearance, no appeal, just slow, silent damage until there was nothing left to fight for. The Yukon had changed. What used to be straightforward mining turned into a maze of conflicting rules. You needed rights from one office, water licenses from another, and land permits from a third. Then came the endless environmental assessments that took longer to complete than an actual mining season. After 2015, everything tightened. New regulations focused on protecting salmon habitats, preserving permafrost, and monitoring fuel use and sediment discharge. Big mining outfits were now audited constantly, forced to prove they weren't harming the land. Other miners complained to local papers that they spent more time filling out forms than actually moving dirt. Tony said something similar on camera, that half your life goes into digging for gold and the other half into digging through paperwork. It sounded like a joke, but you could tell it wasn't. You could see the frustration in him. Years of work frozen, while bureaucrats redefined what it meant to mine responsibly. That fire in 2014 wasn't just an accident. It was the start of a long, ugly fight between old-school miners and a new system determined to rewrite the rules. Tony found himself stuck right in the middle, trying to work in an industry that no longer rewarded effort or skill. Just compliance. Losing the license cost him $9 million across 2 seasons, but the real damage went deeper. It proved that decades of hard work could vanish with one signature from someone behind a desk. The man who once ruled the Klondike had learned the harshest truth of all, that even in the world of gold mining, the most dangerous force isn't nature. It's a regulation. Nearly a decade of profits gone. And in the end, the battle that started with a few flames on a pond turned into something far bigger. Tony against a system he could never beat, no matter how hard he tried. While government bureaucrats drained millions through endless delays, Tony placed a massive bet on machinery older than anyone on his crew. This gamble would consume even more millions without government help. The gambles that drained millions. In Clear Creek, 2015. A 75-year-old gold dredge sat there, half buried and forgotten. Most people looked at it and saw rusted junk, maybe worth a bit as scrap if you hauled it out. Tony didn't see that. What he saw was history. A chance to bring something old back to life, something that once built fortunes in the early Klondike days. Folks in Dawson City thought he'd lost it. The dredge was ancient, older than most people's grandparents. Just moving it would mean tearing apart hundreds of tons of steel that had been sitting out in Yukon weather since before the Second World War ended. The trip alone was a nightmare. Frozen trails that destroyed even modern gear. And fixing it? You'd need parts that no one had made since the 1950s. The whole thing sounded impossible. Tony didn't care. He went all in. His crew worked 6 straight months, piece by piece, tearing it down. Massive buckets, conveyor arms, gearboxes, everything came apart by hand. They hauled the pieces across brutal terrain, no roads, no easy access. Then they tried putting it all back together, using guesswork and memory because no manuals had survived. It was the kind of job that made no sense on paper. But somehow, they made it happen. When the dredge finally came alive at Eureka Creek, it should have been a miracle moment, a monument to old-school engineering and raw determination. Instead, it turned into a slow-motion disaster. The electric motors burned out after only a few hours. Belts kept snapping. Hydraulics leaked everywhere. Days disappeared into endless repairs that cost more than the gold coming out of the ground. By the end of the season, the numbers spoke louder than pride. Tony even admitted it on camera. He'd spent way more than that machine could ever pay back. The dredge didn't stand for innovation anymore. It stood for obsession. That was Tony all over, though. Big dreams, big risks, win or lose, go all the way. That same fire that built his empire was now threatening to burn it down. The dredge proved he could move mountains, but it also showed he could bleed millions chasing ghosts. Those losses hurt, but at least that one was his choice. The next hit came from far beyond anything a miner could control. Between 2021 and 2023, global fuel markets went haywire. Oil prices soared, supply chains cracked under the pandemic, and all the conflicts happening around the world. For most people, it just meant painful gas prices. For Tony, it was almost the end of everything. Diesel runs every part of a Yukon mine. The dozers drink 30 gallons an hour. Excavators are about the same. The water pumps run constantly. Generators power the camps, and the wash plants never stop. When fuel shot up by more than $2 a liter, Tony's daily fuel bills jumped into the tens of thousands, every single day. Then came the delivery problems. Trucks showed up late, sometimes not at all. Fuel barrels froze before they even reached camp. Shipments got lost. It was chaos. Some weeks, he had to ration diesel just to keep one wash plant running. The others sat still, even with good gold ground waiting. On TV, viewers started noticing smaller cleanouts, fewer machines running. The show didn't spell it out, but behind those clips were brutal choices. The fuel crisis wasn't just an expense. It was survival math. Mining's profit margins are thinner than most people think. Even the most experienced operators can get wiped out by one global shortage. Decades of careful planning couldn't shield Tony from that. All it took was one worldwide squeeze, and years of profits vanished into thin air. And while fuel was wrecking the budget, his equipment began breaking down one after another. By 2023, things were falling apart faster than he could fix them. Frozen ground delayed stripping for weeks. One fully loaded haul truck even slid off a 15-foot drop. Cameras caught it. Luckily, no one got hurt. Hydraulic failures stopped the sluices mid-run, right when gold was moving through the box. Season 15 of Gold Rush showed what that really looked like. One wash plant is running instead of 3. Thousands of ounces lost. You could see it on Tony's face. Not anger, more like exhaustion. The Viking King looked cornered, watching profits collapse while his machines betrayed him. None of it was staged for TV. Industry reports later confirmed every failure. The financial damage was massive and real. Mining doesn't offer second chances. When the season ends, that's it. You don't make up for lost time next week. To understand the scale of the hit, you've got to stack up the disasters. The dredge project, the fuel crisis, the breakdowns, the licensing delays. A full Beets crew normally runs over 10,000 cubic yards of pay dirt a day. If even one wash plant stops, that's around 1,500 ounces gone in a single season. More than $3 million at current prices. Add everything together, and estimates put his total losses somewhere between $6 and $9 million at least. But if you count idle crew pay, ongoing maintenance, and the insane fuel bills during the worst months, the real number's probably closer to 10 million. And through all of it, Tony didn't let anyone go. He paid every crew member through the off-seasons, even when nothing was moving. He took the hit himself because loyalty mattered more than saving a few dollars on payroll. By 2025, his operation looked smaller, leaner. The scars were obvious, but it was still standing. Somehow, he'd kept it alive through everything. The fines, the breakdowns, the shortages. The empire survived, but just barely. Financial disasters nearly destroyed Tony's business infrastructure. But the human cost, the toll extracted from crew and family, cut far deeper than any balance sheet could measure. Personal toll behind the gold. Mining doesn't just wear down machines, it wears people down too. Over the years, Tony's lost quite a few longtime crew members. Not from accidents, but from burnout. You work 12-hour shifts in temperatures that can hit 40 below. You deal with endless pressure to hit production numbers, and you're surrounded by machines that can kill you if you slip once. It's not something everyone can keep doing year after year. Some guys just disappeared quietly when the season ended. Others snapped right there on the job and walked off mid-shift. Tony never begged anyone to stay. He always said mining wasn't for everyone, and if someone couldn't take it, they were better off finding another path. Maybe he was right, but every person who left took more than just a name off payroll. They took years of hard-earned experience, instincts you can't teach, and trust that takes forever to build. Training replacements in that kind of weather, while trying to keep production going and deal with constant breakdowns and new regulations, it's brutal. Tony knew the math. Even the strongest operation can crumble one tired worker at a time. Then, in 2023, Gold Rush fans started to notice something odd. Someone important wasn't showing up in the new season's footage. Kevin Beets. For years, Kevin had been the one holding everything together. He was the guy fixing the gear when it broke, keeping the wash plants running, and solving problems that would have shut other crews down for good. Then, suddenly, he was gone. Fans online went wild with theories. Some said there'd been a falling out between father and son. Others guessed at business troubles or family drama behind the scenes. Everyone wanted to know what happened. The truth turned out to be simpler, though still rough to hear. Kevin had stepped away for personal and family reasons, needing time away from the cameras and the grind. He wasn't gone forever. He later came back and worked behind the scenes, helping with off-camera operations. But while he was gone, the absence left a hole you could feel. Not just in the business, but between father and son. When he finally came back, there wasn't some big TV reunion or emotional hug, just a quiet handshake. Two men who'd said everything they needed to say without words. Losing Kevin for that stretch was hard, but Monica's loss hit even harder. During filming, Monica had announced she was expecting a baby. Fans loved it. The comments online were full of congratulations and excitement. It felt like the Beets family legacy was growing into another generation. Then came the news that she'd suffered a miscarriage in 2022. That wasn't gossip or rumor. Monica shared it herself. She'd grown up in front of the cameras, and she chose to let people see that pain too. Tony, who rarely shows emotion, looked completely crushed. It wasn't about business or money that time. It was about life, loss, and trying to hold yourself together while the cameras keep rolling and the world watches. Moments like that remind you this isn't just a show about gold. It's people trying to make a living while carrying real pain and real exhaustion. Behind all the machinery and the noise, there's a cost no spreadsheet can show. Burned-out crews, family strain, and private heartbreak made public. Those were the hidden prices Tony paid for building his empire. As the gold rush got bigger and the Beets operation became known around the world, the pressure didn't just come from inside. It started building in Dawson City, too. Some of the longtime locals began speaking up. The big TV mining outfits were tearing up creek beds, clogging roads, and changing the rhythm of the town. People said the show made Yukon mining look like some wild free, for when the real thing was far smaller and more careful. Local papers quoted residents complaining about the noise, the dust, and the constant camera crews showing up in their neighborhoods. To them, it felt like their home had turned into a set. Tony, being the most recognizable face from the show, became the one everyone pointed to. For many fans, he was the king of the Klondike, the guy keeping Yukon mining alive. But for others in town, he was a problem, the face of industrial-scale mining that seemed to care more about television than tradition. Some saw him as a hard-working man keeping history alive. Others saw him as someone helping to destroy the very land that history came from. The arguments grew louder. People talked about lost peace, damaged creeks, salmon spawning grounds. All the while, film crews kept rolling. Tony didn't fight back much in public. He just kept working. Mining was his life, and defending it came naturally, even when the rules around him changed faster than anyone could keep up. But the tension in Dawson showed something bigger. The fight wasn't just about Tony. It was about what the North was becoming. On one side, you had people chasing opportunity and holding on to old mining traditions. On the other hand, environmental groups and new regulators are trying to protect what was left. Then there were the indigenous communities whose land and history ran deeper than any mining claim. All these forces kept clashing, and Tony's name ended up right in the middle, whether he wanted it or not. The noise from locals and critics was tough, but manageable. He'd been through worse. What came next, though, would hit from a direction no amount of experience or stubbornness could defend against. While local tensions remained containable, the internet unleashed something far worse. A coordinated misinformation assault that spread lies faster than any truth could catch up. Digital age attacks with lies. 2024 turned out to be a strange kind of battleground. Not the kind fought with weapons, but with words, clicks, and screens. Out of nowhere, stories started flooding social media about Tony Beets. None of them were real, but that didn't stop people from sharing them like wildfire. Some YouTube channels posted videos saying Tony had been thrown in prison for life over environmental crimes. Others swore he'd died suddenly at 64. A few even claimed the Canadian government had stepped in and seized all his mining claims for good. It was like every week brought a new, crazier headline. The lies spread fast. Before anyone could check what was true or not, millions had already watched, shared, and believed. When fact-checkers finally stepped in, they found nothing. No court filings, no warrants, no death records, no government action. Nothing at all. Discovery Channel even had to make a statement, confirming Tony was still working and filming new episodes of Gold Rush during the same weeks people were mourning him online. Yet, that didn't stop the stories. Some said he'd lost his license to mine forever, or that he was facing criminal charges that would end his career. Again, not a single bit of it held up when you looked at public records. The strange thing is, false stories travel faster than the truth. That's just how the internet works now. Algorithms push whatever gets clicks, not whatever's real. Sensational headlines keep people scrolling. Truth rarely gets the same reward. Tony, for his part, doesn't usually bother with gossip. He's always been a man who prefers to let his work speak for him. But sometimes, silence feeds the beast. When people don't hear from you, they start filling in the blanks themselves. And that's exactly what happened here. Legally speaking, the guy's record is still clean, apart from that one penalty back in 2017 for the fire incident everyone remembers. Beyond that, there's nothing. No scandals, no crimes, no secret downfall hiding somewhere in the paperwork. The whole thing showed just how powerless even well-known people can be against viral nonsense. Lies don't need evidence to spread. They just need attention. And once they're out there, they take on a life of their own. Fans who honestly wanted to know what was happening couldn't tell what to believe anymore. Every post contradicted the last. Real issues, like mechanical breakdowns, permit getting delayed, and personal family struggles. Those got buried under fake headlines made only to grab ad revenue. After months of that chaos, Tony finally decided enough was enough. The noise had gotten too loud to ignore. He'd kept quiet for a while, maybe hoping it would all blow over, but it didn't. So he sat down and spoke on his own terms. His statement wasn't polished or rehearsed. It was plain spoken, just like him. He said yes, people were right to notice changes on the gold rush. That part was true. Time had caught up with him a bit. Decades of tough work in freezing Yukon weather had worn him down. It happens to everyone, even the toughest ones. So he'd started stepping back a little, letting his kids handle more of the day-to-day grind. That was part of the plan all along. He wanted to make sure the business would outlive him, to give Monica, Kevin, and Mike the space to grow into leaders. He didn't want to hand them everything on a silver platter, but he wanted them ready. He mentioned that some family matters needed his time too. He didn't say much about that, just enough to explain why he wasn't always out on the sites like before. It was clear, though, that it wasn't because he'd quit. He was just shifting gears. People online had been expecting some kind of shocking confession, death, scandal, or bankruptcy. But what they got was something far more ordinary and, in a way, more meaningful. It was just a man facing time honestly. No drama, no clickbait. At the end of it all, what stood out wasn't the drama people tried to invent. It was the truth of a man who's been through it all and refuses to give up. Someone who knows that time changes everything, but it doesn't erase what you've built. Tony's story wasn't about downfall or scandal. It was about endurance, legacy, and learning when to step back without stepping away. And maybe that's the part the internet forgot to mention. Tony's confirmation provided fans with closure about his immediate status. But examining where he actually stands today reveals something far more complex than any simple retirement announcement could capture. Where the legend stands now. It is late 2025. Tony Beets is still out there working the Yukon ground. You could see him in the production footage for Gold Rush Season 16, still managing the operation around the Paradise Hill claims. Kevin was the one fixing machines and keeping the equipment alive, while Monica ran the crews and handled the day-to-day grind. The Beets mining empire, though smaller and rougher than it once was still alive. There weren't any criminal charges hanging over him, no serious health issues confirmed, No government ban is shutting him down. The big tragedies people whispered about, death, bankruptcy, total collapse, never happened. What did remain were the scars. You could count them if you wanted to. That $31,000 environmental conviction that'll sit on his record forever. Years of denied water licenses that cost him whole seasons. Maybe $6 to $9 million lost. Machines breaking down in the middle of production, wiping out thousands of ounces of gold that were already half spent in his mind. Fuel prices are spiking so badly that profits have disappeared. Good crew members are leaving after years of long hours and stress. Family tension is building under constant cameras. Tony's story was never about smooth sailing or endless wins. It was about hanging on while everything tried to break him. Lawsuits, red tape, money bleeding out, and the kind of personal pain that never makes it into the final cut of a TV episode. Every one of those hits was real, big enough to sink most people. But somehow, none of them stopped him completely. If you look at the numbers, the truth's pretty harsh. The money from the Discovery Channel might sound huge, but it barely covers the cost of running those massive machines. Every bit of gold pulled from the ground gets taxed before it even leaves camp. Tony's said it himself more than once. TV doesn't pay for diesel. Fame looks good on paper, but it doesn't fill fuel tanks or fix busted engines. By 2025, he wasn't chasing big wealth anymore. That dream had shifted. Now it was about keeping things moving, keeping his people paid, keeping his family working together, keeping something alive for the grandkids he was already teaching to handle the same old gear that nearly ruined him once. Other Yukon miners say the hardest part these days isn't even the digging. It's the paperwork, filling out forms, waiting for permits, paying for environmental compliance. All that eats into the clock and the profits. You can have a perfect setup, a great crew, and one bad season can still wipe out years of savings. Sometimes it's a delay from regulators. Sometimes it's a single broken machine that stops everything cold. Tony's empire didn't survive because of luck. It survived because he refused to quit. He paid his crews even when they were stuck waiting on paperwork. He poured money into machines that broke down again and again. He kept fighting through problems that hard work alone couldn't solve. The world changed around him, and he had to change too. That's the part that really hits if you stop to think about it. The tragedy people feared wasn't death or jail. It was something quieter. Watching a man who built his whole life through sheer willpower face things he couldn't muscle his way through anymore. You can't outwork time. You can't outshout government bureaucracy or global economics. You can't fix every failure with a wrench. Even the strongest ones, the so-called Vikings, reach a point where they need help. Tony's public statement made that clear. The people close to him already knew it. He'll still be there, probably yelling at a broken pump, teaching a grandkid how to feel the rhythm of a sluice, still chasing gold, because that's what he knows. What his kids inherit isn't just equipment or land. It's a mindset. A lesson that failure isn't the end. Tony didn't fall. He changed. That's the real story. Not escaping tragedy, but surviving it, reshaping it, and somehow building something stronger out of what's left. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out another interesting video by clicking on the link shown on your screen. See you on the other side.